spend a little bit of time. So one thing about before you speak is really good, like we talked about before, to get yourself grounded, right? And to get yourself in the moment, in the present, okay? So to do that, what I want you to do first is just to bounce a little bit. Just to bounce. I know it feels weird, but this is going to get your nervous system, right, excited, right? So we want to just bounce in place. Shake out your arms. So this is good to do backstage before you get on stage, and just kind of shake it out a little bit. Now I want you to picture your feet being really solid. Remember, we're going to go about shoulder width apart, and I want you to think about roots from your feet going into the earth. So I want you to think about, after you do a little shaking out, right, a little bit of movement, think about grounding and roots going into the earth. And think about a line going from that all the way up through your head and into the sky. So you're feeling totally connected. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to take a deep breath in. Hold it. And exhale. And as you exhale, feel that groundedness, feet going into the ground. Those roots going in. So you feel nice and solid. And again. And exhale. And one more time. And this time, go ahead and raise your shoulders up towards your ears. And good. Go ahead and roll your shoulders back. Good. Camera going on there. Good. Roll your shoulders back. And roll your shoulders front. I want you to keep your arms loose. Just give yourself a little bit of space, and you're just going to do this. Rotate. Just let the arms like flop. I don't see flopping. There you go. Yeah, don't hit each other. Give yourself a little bit of space. Excellent. Yeah. So all of this is just really good before, even like before a test, before you have to speak, before a meeting, before anything that you have to do that gives you maybe a little bit of, anxiousness. Just kind of shake it out. Do this. Think about being grounded. Think about your breath. Right? And think about just how can you just kind of shake out those nerves. Because it's natural to feel that, and everybody does. Even the pros, singers and performers say that they get stage fright, and they get that. So this is going to help kind of move you through it, okay? So again, let's do it again. Let's go ahead and just bounce up and down. Take some deep breaths. Good. Roll the shoulders back. Roll the shoulders front. Good, excellent. How's that feel? Just kind of wakes you up a little bit too, right? This is a great way when you're feeling a little tired too, like throughout your day, is just to kind of do this little bit of motion, a little bit of movement. Okay, it doesn't take but like 2 minutes, and it's going to activate your memory, and you're going to activate your kind of brain capacity too. Because what happens when you're tired, like midday, right, in school, you get tired, you get lethargic, you don't want to, go to your classes, whatever, right? So this is just like that little bit of shakeout, and this will be critical before you get on stage, okay? So also anything that we did last week, also you can do. So I want you to do a couple of things Dakota showed us last week with your, what's called your articulators in your mouth, okay? So I want you to open really wide and close. Open and close. So just kind of like move that jaw back and forth and make all kinds of funny faces. Yeah, feel that, how it kind of opens up what's called the articulators. And that's going to help too when you start, speaking and enunciating your words. Because the biggest thing is that we want to make sure, and we talked about it last week, remember? We talked about volume, for those of you who were last week. We talked about enunciation, right? Like how are you enunciating? Voice inflection, we're going to look at a little bit today as we listen to you speak. Because what's important is sometimes when we get nervous, we talk too fast. Or we can swallow our words at the end, like we say, like we go down in volume at the end of our sentences. So we want to make sure that we project and that we're enunciating properly. So go ahead with your tongue and just go. I know it feels weird. Because your tongue is a muscle. All right, go move your mouth around again. And sometimes I'll go ahead and just massage my, before I speak to, I'll just kind of like massage my neck. I want you to do some head rolls, both directions. And all of this is a great little warm-up to get you started. Okay, one more time, let's shake it out. Check, check, check. All right, good, awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and we gotta get started because we're looking at about a 3 to 5 minute talk for everybody. Okay, so 3 to 5 minutes, and this is not I don't want you to feel anxious or nervous. This is what we're doing here today. It's all about just practice and getting feedback. Okay, so we're going to give you feedback in terms of all the things we talked about. So what we talked about last week. Who was here last week? A lot of you. I know some weren't here last week. Okay, so what is probably the biggest takeaway from last week that you received in terms of feedback? Anybody remember?
For me, it's like if you make a mistake on stage, don't like spill the beans to pretend nothing happened and keep going because no one knows what your script is.
Absolutely, that's great. So if you didn't hear that, if you fumble a word on stage, nobody knows what you're going to say, right? It's only if you go, right, and then you make a big deal about it that people are going to be like, uh-oh, they forgot something. Where if you just keep going and you know, in your mind, don't freak out. I think I was supposed to say something else there, but that's okay, I'm going to keep going. Because I want you to know your talk enough so it just comes through you, right? Especially if you're the storyteller, because you're just sharing your story, right? Your life story. It's not like it has to be memorized. You know it. You lived it. So it's just going to come through you. And for a TED Talk, it needs to be timed, so it needs to be somewhat memorized. But if you segue a little or forget, just take that deep breath, right, and keep going, because they're not going to know the difference. They only know if you spill the beans, right? And you kind of get freaked out and go, oh my God, you know. So, and also too, I know a couple people last time kind of apologized, like, oh gosh, I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize. You just take a breath and you just keep going. Okay, so let's work on that this time, because we don't know if you need to take a pause, you take a pause. Volume, I'd say, is the biggest thing, right? Volume and keeping the energy up. Because like we talked about last week, they don't remember the words as much as they remember how you made them feel, right? And the energy that you present. So you could be saying the best things and the best stats and telling the best stories, but if you're doing it like this and it's really low and there's no energy, they're not going to feel it, right? But if you're doing it in an excited way and feeling like, yeah, this is my story, or this is, you know, I'm so passionate about teaching you this, then the words matter less. Does that make sense? Okay, great. All right, let's go ahead and sit down. And do I have a volunteer for the first go around? You want to go? Okay, great. So come up front. And what's your name?
Justin.
Justin? Okay, Justin. Let's give Justin a hand. Great. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I'm going to stand way back here. So if I can't hear you, I'm going to wave. Okay. So I want to make sure that you really project your volume.
Last year in January 2019, I got into a deep depression where I was totally stressed, annoyed, frustrated, and very unaware of my actions of what I was going to do. The thoughts that comes in my mind made me a negative impact on me, where I totally changed into a whole different person. I was broken, very stubborn, and unconscious of what I was going to do or what I was even stressed about. I was so caught up with sleep deprived, which every day when I go to school, I don't really know what was going on or what the teacher was teaching of lack of sleep with my unconsciousness, unclear mind, and that just made a negative impact on myself. It's hard to manage yourself without seeking and asking for help when you feel stressed or under deep depression where you can't get out of the shell of knowing to let your emotions get to you. A lot of people, such as teachers, family members, and friends, were very concerned about me during the time I was depressed and stressed. I started procrastinating, slacking off on things, and didn't stay true to myself of who I am. Undergoing this challenge or this fear in myself to let my emotions get to me, let the stress, the anger, the emotions and all these things that were going on, it just let me down into downfall where I lost hope. And out of hope, I didn't get anywhere because I wasn't honest to myself. I was lying to myself. And all these things that impact me, it impact my family and friends and everybody who were in my life that advocated for me, who support me along the road. I don't know why I was stressed, because probably it was school, balancing out with family, because I think that I'm not perfect to myself, that I wasn't sure that I was going to do. At the same time, no one's perfect in life, and I let that negatively get in my mind. And where I am at that standpoint from today, from the past, I do not want to go back to where I was last year, because it was a really horrific moment in my time where I just rushed into flames, and through what other people had to say that judged me, that gave me a bad compliment, that had influenced me negatively, I wish I knew better, because to be able to move along the path and with success and just advocate for yourself is of your own self, to fix yourself, to your own heart, your own willingness, your desire, to let yourself to just stay true and motivated to do the things that are associated. And some people might not know what life has been to me in the past. I've been through a lot. So I live with a single mother with my grandparents. My dad abandoned me when I was 1 year old. 15 years ago, never got a chance to see him, don't have no contact with him. Then 5 years ago, my grandpa passed away with a heart attack. Then 7 years ago, my oldest auntie died with bone cancer at age 57. And there were a lot of things that I was holding onto, the grief, the guilt, the stress, and I can't get out of that shell, thinking that I was imperfect, that I was unworthy of my own actions that I was taking. And as you feel that stress and that anxiety escalate to the moment in life where you just can't take it anymore, you're in that outburst moment. And through all the challenges and the risk and the sacrifice I had taken from the past, from this year, 2020, I felt more motivated, more confident, more aware of my own actions, got the help and advocate from my friends, family members, as well as teachers who are willing to help me. And
Good.
okay.
That's good. Okay, time.
Right.
Excellent. Okay. What did he? Your man, yeah. Okay, so let's give him a little bit of feedback. Any feedback from anybody? I think what you did really well is project.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got a really great voice, and it really project. Like I could hear you back here. Did everybody feel that? Like you strong voice projected. I think your voice inflection was really good too. Like you kind of went up and down. Because the biggest thing is you don't want to be, monotone, right? Just one level the whole way, boring like this, right? So up and down, that was great. In terms of how you craft your story, because you went into your story and then kind of a little bit back up and back into some more story. So I would say just tighten that piece up a little bit, because remember the framework of what, so what, and now what. So the what is, it was a tough year. You had a lot of stuff going on. You could talk about some of the background of having a lot of loss in your life at a young age, right? And how there was some depression and all the things you went through. Then the so what, like, okay, so what happened there, which you explained, but then the now what.
Okay.
Now at the end you started talking about the now what a little bit, like, because you want to end on an inspiring note, like this is where I was and this is how I moved through it.
Okay.
Right? Like I asked for help, I went to my teacher. So when you're crafting that story, it's it's in that framework of telling them the story, but then what did you learn from it, and what do you want to share with the
Okay.
audience who might feel the same way? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good, good. And eye contact was good too. So remember, you want to look at the people in the audience. I think that was good too. Anything from your side that you?
More of the adjusting this, the wording and the structure of it to make it
Yeah.
more precise and more clean.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think everything you have down there was great. It just jumped around a little bit, where it was like story, then you went to a little bit of the recovery, then you went back to the people you lost in your life, so you went a little bit up and down.
Yeah.
So yeah, put all of that more in the
Okay.
front end, and then it's like, okay, now this is where I'm at,
Okay.
you know. Okay, good. Let's give me a hand. Awesome. Good job.
Labrador Retriever, German Shepherd, Bulldog, Beagle. These dogs, some of the most beloved in the entire United States, are suffering every day due to humans' vain needs and desires. In order to be called a specific breed of dogs by organizations such as the American Kennel Club, dogs have to meet a very specific set of standards. This forces breeders to interbreed dogs with their direct relatives in order to get them to match those standards. This interbreeding creates genetic problems in dogs, which causes them to live extremely painful lives and have countless problems. The road to helping these suffering dogs isn't simple, but if awareness stays low and people continue to be uninformed, the problem will only get worse. It all started 7,000 years ago, when humans first started breeding dogs to get the best traits from each one. In the 20th century, when dog shows started to gain more popularity, dogs started to be bred not for their great hunting abilities, but to get a specific look, which defined each breed. The Bulldog, a great example of this rapid change, looks completely different now than it did all those years ago. Instead of the sturdy, athletic dog it used to be, the modern Bulldog has countless problems which plague its ability to breathe and live a painless life. In fact, a study showed that the average Bulldog is genetically equivalent to the offspring of 2 siblings. If a relationship between 2 siblings is looked down upon, then why do we allow the same thing for our children, for our dogs? French Bulldogs are 16 times more likely to suffer from difficult births than the average dog. About half of these problems lead to extremely painful surgery for the dog, just to give birth to a child. Due to their weight, most Bulldogs cannot reproduce without assistance either, further complicating their life and the life of their owner. Health problems got so extreme that some airlines ban Bulldogs from flying, because about half of all dogs who die in flight are short-faced breeds such as Bulldogs. All of this is due to the fact that breeders are forced to inbreed their dogs in order to match unhealthy norms set by modern society. With the popularity of purebred dogs such as Bulldogs is increasing every day, with the number of registered Bulldogs in the United States tripling in the past 15 years. This rise in popularity also brings a rise in abandonment, with the number of Bulldogs in shelters hitting all-time highs recently. Many aren't familiar with the health costs associated with owning a Bulldog, leading to them leaving them in the streets. The Royal Veterinary College even warns that French Bulldog owners should expect a lifetime of expensive veterinary bills. An unhealthy dog also comes with an owner falling in love with it, only to see it plagued with countless problems in its everyday life. A large part of that because of the inbreeding that these dogs are forced to take part in. Bulldogs aren't the only breed that face these problems. Labrador Retrievers have a substantially greater chance of encountering cancer, skin allergies, and joint pain. Beagles often have to deal with memory cancer, herniated discs, and dementia. Boxers have a greater chance to face cancer, eye ulcers, and respiratory problems. The road to helping these suffering dogs isn't simple. In order to fix the problem we have created for ourselves, we need to raise awareness surrounding purebred dogs and the consequences which come with them. With the demand for purebred dogs skyrocketing in recent years, the supply will as well. Shady breeders will interbreed dogs just to make a few bucks, cursing new puppies with a lifetime of pain. If you really want to raise a purebred dog, ensure that it comes from a reputable breeder that meets standards in order to make sure your dog can live a pain-free life. Breeders shouldn't leave new owners in the dust after getting a new dog, and should be there to lead the owners through puppyhood and the rest of their dog's life. Meet your breeder in person and request medical history of the dog and its parents. Getting appropriate documentation of a dog's pedigree can make sure that your dog has the opportunity to live a full life. Any dog can live a good life, but society's obsession with only one of a pure breed has many of them suffering as a result.
Nice.
Good topic. I like that it's different. You know what I mean? That's really awesome. Good job with the memorization. Okay, I know that you worked hard on that. The one thing that I have a couple comments for you. Okay, the first is that I think you spend a little bit too much time on the bulldog. Okay, and so we want to show like why this is important for like a number of different breeds. And so you talked a little bit about what was the dog that you brought in second? The golden retriever. Okay, so I would say take one or two little sentences out about the bulldog and go to the golden retriever sooner and make that statement sooner that the bulldog isn't the only dog that's suffering from being bred this way, right? Here's the golden retriever, and then maybe put another dog in there, but just there's too much on the bulldog, so like take 2 to 3 sentences out of that and then put it elsewhere. And the second thing is that you do a really good job with your hands, like you're not like touching and like crossing your arms and everything, but your posture needs to be a little bit more upright, so do that right now for me. Yeah, shoulders back. Yeah, think more like Superman. Yeah, okay, yeah, just like that. And then also a little bit more dynamic in your voice. Okay, so read your last couple sentences again.
Meet your breeder in person and request medical history of the dog and its parents. Getting appropriate documentation of a dog's pedigree can ensure that they have the opportunity to live a full life. Any dog can live a good life, but society's obsession with only ones of a pure breed has many of them suffering as a result.
Okay, so like, for example, that all sounds like one, right? But you want to bring out emotion depending on the different lines, right? So any dog can live a good life, but our obsession in society has created, like, you got to have a little bit more like conviction. Does that make sense? Same thing when you talk about the different breeds of animals. So you talk about the bulldog and then get emotional and say, the bulldog is not the only victim. Like these other dogs are suffering too. Like there needs to be more like, man, like you're so emotional about this. And right now your voice is kind of like on one level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But great memorization, for the most part, good like posture, like nonverbal communication, just stand up more straight. I would say just have more like highs and lows in the voice.
Yeah. You have great tonality, so yeah, just a little more volume and a little more of the, like Nana said, like emotion too. Another dog, in terms of just adding to the content, or shifting the content, is the Dalmatian. Because after 101 Dalmatians, so many people ran out and breeders were going crazy breeding Dalmatians. But they're so high strung because of the way they're bred that so many people were returning them. And there were, dogs that didn't have homes. So, focusing on that too, like society, the movies popularize a dog, but then people don't understand what it takes to really care for them. So another point at the end of like the what is the issue of the inbred breeding. The so what is like all the stuff that happens to the dogs, and now the now what is for you to be educated as to what that particular dog needs, so you can provide the safe, awesome home for that dog, right? So I think maybe just circle into that if you want to add that.
Right.
I think you have great content. The dogs you already highlighted is great.
It's a really cool topic.
Yeah,
good
really
job.
good topic. So. All right, let's give Ty a hand. Awesome. And so we're going to set the time at about 5 minutes max. If you get done before that, great, but I'll wave if it looks like you're going a little over. Okay? Who's next? All right, let's do it. What's your name?
Neil.
Neil. All right, let's give Neil a hand.
Okay, take a big breath, nice and tall power stance. Yeah.
Grounded, remember?
Did you know that teenagers on average get 7 or less hours of sleep every night? This number is shocking, as numerous studies show that teens need at least 8 to 9 hours of sleep to be healthy. One study even shows that only 15% of teens get the recommended amount of sleep every night. Think about that. Only 15% of teens get a healthy amount of sleep. Only 15% of teens can come to school with the ability to function at their peak. If you're a typical high school student like me, I'm sure you can remember plenty of times where you've been so tired that you simply cannot focus or process anything. Going through the school day like this is a blur, as I leave my classes without having learned anything and simply feeling awful. I yawn excessively, show irritability, and feel the effects of daytime fatigue. If you can say you relate to these symptoms, you might be a sufferer of sleep deprivation. This is a common concern for many students across the world. This issue is frequently overlooked because we often take sleep for granted. Us students are so caught up with social activities and schoolwork that we tend to neglect our body's basic needs, like sleep. With the ever-growing stress and pressure created by our hectic lives, sleep becomes a rare priority in students. This lack of regard for something as essential as sleep is a massive problem in this world. Countless studies show that sleep deprivation leads to various physical health problems. First off, I just want to discuss some physical health issues caused by sleep deprivation. Are you aware that some studies estimate that 90% of people afflicted with insomnia also suffer from another health condition? This is no coincidence. People who experience less sleep are prone to some of the most serious physical health issues, including heart attack, heart disease, heart failure, stroke, and diabetes, just to name a few. These are serious ailments that can claim millions and millions of lives every year. They can take away your family, your friends, and even yourself. Such fatal obstacles can be avoided by getting more sleep. Next, loss of sleep doesn't only cause physical health issues. One could even argue that the mental health detriments caused by lack of sleep are even greater than the physical ones. First off, we need to discuss our body's internal clocks. The circadian rhythms of our bodies are controlled by these clocks. The word circadian means to occur in a 24-hour cycle, so these rhythms control when we wake up and when we go to sleep throughout the 24-hour day. These rhythms are extremely fragile, as a chronic lack of good night's sleep can completely throw them off. In fact, a teenager can throw off their circadian rhythm with only one night of poor sleep. This is why people tend to feel sleepy at school, at work, and even when they're driving. This alteration of our internal clocks leads to changes for the worse in our lives. If you're a student, getting enough sleep is extraordinarily important to your academic success. Loss of sleep leads to concentration issues, meaning you won't be able to concentrate in school and not be able to focus on tests or lessons. Memory impairment is also a result of less sleep. Important information like processes and definitions learned in class may not be retained. This can lower your test scores, project scores, and overall negatively affect you academically. Having less sleep can also indirectly lead to other problems too. One example is sleepy students become over-reliant on caffeine-containing substances like coffee or energy drinks. While consuming these drinks moderately can actually provide health benefits, an over-reliance can actually lead to higher risk of heart attack, anxiety, and agitation. Having too much caffeine can also upset your circadian rhythms by keeping you up too late. To wrap this up, some say that lack of sleep in students is like having bad vision. One doesn't realize how bad their vision is until they get glasses, or in this case, a night of good sleep. There are many ways to end your sleep debt, but I just want to get into a few. First, stop procrastinating. Students who procrastinate end up working late into the night, causing them to experience less sleep. If you stop procrastinating and finish work earlier in the day, you can sleep earlier. Second, keep a regular sleep-wake cycle. You can do this by sleeping and waking up at around the same time every day. By doing this, your body can find its natural rhythm and let you have a consistent good night's sleep. Third, wind down in the 30 minutes leading up to bedtime. Have a relaxing pre-sleep ritual such as reading, calming music, or even a warm bath. A steady pre-sleep ritual will ready your body for sleep and also be a relaxing, reflective part of your day. Finally, there are countless ways to remedy sleep deprivation. To get the most out of these methods, do research and see what applies to you. If these methods aren't helping you sleep, consider reaching out for professional help to discuss your problems. I hope you can all walk away from this talk with new information that will improve your life. As genius inventor and wise man Benjamin Franklin once said, "Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise."
That was really good. That was really, really good. I followed it. You presented the problem, and you wound up with some solutions, and I love that you ended with the quote. I think the structure of it was great, and you went just about 5 minutes there. I think a little more volume maybe, little more just, posture. I know you won't be holding notes when you're doing it, so just a little bit more voice inflection. Like, this can really, be a little bit more dramatic when you talk about some of the problems. But I think, I think it was great. I love the content. I think you brought us back to a solution, which is really the object of the talk.
I think it was great. I think that the sooner you get out of that paper, the more you're going to be able to open up, okay? But it's the same thing that I said to, remind me of your name? Ty. Maybe there has to be highs and lows in your voice, okay? Because, do you guys know what it means to be monotone?
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, monotone is when your voice stays in one level, one layer, okay? And so again, we want to go up and we want to go down. We want to go up and we want to go down. Like especially at the end when you're saying, here's what we can do to make a shift in how we sleep. First, da-da-da-da-da. Second, ba-da-da-da-da. And lastly, da-da-da-da-da. Right? A quote, da-da-da-da-da. Like what's the last sentence that you say?
As genius inventor and wise man Benjamin Franklin once said.
Okay, so as Benjamin Franklin once said, then say your quote. Does that make sense? So like really make that apparent and clear. I also think that your talk could be a little bit shorter. I think that you spend too much time in the middle section of like, here's the problem, this is what it does, this is what it does. You could probably cut out about a paragraph. And so you have your beginning, cut out a little bit of the section about like you have heart attacks, like all that stuff. Keep some of it, but it's too much, right? And then get to the solution faster.
Yeah. People learn in threes. It's right.
Yes.
It's like having the problems be in threes. Like first off, this is a huge problem with sleep deprivation. It can affect other health conditions like X, Y, Z, another 3, right? Then so have 3 in that, and they could be 3 with a layer underneath, like I said there. But then at the end, you come back with like another 3 ways to help with sleep deprivation. With how do you get a better night's sleep, right? So chunking in 3s, that's kind of how the brain works. So that's a good way to think about that too, how you distribute that information.
Good job though,
Yeah,
Neil.
really
Yeah,
good,
great.
really, really good. Let's give Neil a hand. Awesome job.
Hey you guys, can we do this? Can we do this for my brain? If you've already spoken, can you come back here? And if you haven't, shift to the front, please. And if you're not doing a talk, then you can stay back here as well. Yeah, if you don't mind shifting to the front. That way we can just see like
We know how many
we got going on. You're not doing a talk? Do you have anything done? Are you planning on competing next week? Okay, then go front and we'll just take what you got. That's okay. You just tell us what you're going to talk
Just go
about.
up and tell us what you want to talk about.
Okay, so you
Even
went,
if it's a
sorry, Miss Julie,
10
glad
seconds.
you're back. You went, you're not going? Because you're new, right? What's your name? Ethan, nice to meet you. You're not
I haven't finished.
Boy, you better get back up there.
Yeah, like last time we just introduced ourselves. That's okay. Just talk about what you have so far.
Are you guys talking?
We are new.
Yeah, that's okay. Do you guys want to go up there? Are you planning on competing next week?
We're not going to be here next week.
Oh, darn. Okay, do you guys mind coming back here then? No, it's okay. There's chairs back here for you. Glad to have you though.
We got a few more.
What's your name? Arno, Netta, nice to meet you. And you are?
Marcus.
Marcus, Netta, nice to meet you.
Okay, who's next?
Alrighty, so all of you guys still have to go, and you're not speaking? Why?
Next week.
But do you have anything written down?
It's not fully.
But you have something to read?
It's only one paragraph. It's not that much.
That's okay, come on.
It's okay.
Yeah. You guys listen, I don't care if you have one paragraph or if you're just gonna say your name, but if you're speaking next week, I want you up front because next week is your competition. Yeah, your competition's on Sunday, right? And so all we have is today, and then next Saturday we're gonna work with you, and then Sunday you're on stage doing your thing. Yeah.
So after that, the result comes out?
So there's the competition, and then after that it has like the finals.
Oh my god.
Yes. Okay. I think so. Yeah.
I mean,
That's why there's
my
two
mom
tiers.
forced me to.
That's okay. It'll be great. Alrighty. No. It's just like the final. Yeah. Competition. Then you start to move on to the final. Okay, that's what we want. All right, you guys. I need a female. We need a girl. We need a girl to come up and talk. We just have all these guys. No, Flora first.
I mean, I was just like,
I believe in you. Oh, wow. You got it.
it's not that bad. Can't relate.
All right, here we go.
Start from the heart. You know your story. You know your story.
I'm not really satisfied with it.
That's okay.
That's okay. Don't get into your head about it.
Don't
Good
get
thoughts.
your
Good
head.
thoughts.
This is just practice. What's your name?
Shelly.
Shelly?
Kind of nice and tall, Shelly.
I am a bystander to cyberbullying. Ever since I have memory, my mom has always told me, don't get yourself involved in any bullying incidents. Don't support the bullies, don't help the victims. Just pretend you haven't seen anything and protect yourself. I've been deeply believing in these lines and being the bystander, but that's wrong. There are thousands of minors, teens, even adults that have committed suicide because of cyberbullying. People are dying because of these words, this post, the virtue things online. Several months ago, one celebrity committed suicide in South Korea at the age of 25. It really shocked me. Not only because I came to realize how harmful those words could be, but also because how serious this issue is. After her death, suddenly all the internet trolls just disappeared. The anonymous attackers all returned back to their normal life. But what about her? She ended her own life. That night, I questioned myself deeply. What did I do? Would she still be here if I sent her messages to support her? Would she still be here if I had told the trolls to stop? Would she still be here if people like me as bystanders have all said something to let her know that there are still people who care for her, people who loved her, people who still need her? But all that did not happen because I was a bystander. Because I was afraid. Because I was afraid to become the next target. What was more heartbroken was when I actually did research, I came to realize just how prevalent cyberbullying is in the youth community worldwide. I've been ignoring and avoiding facing the problem directly for 16 years of my life. What leads them to end their own lives might not only just the bullies, not the insults, not only the illness, but also the ignorance from the rest of us. When they were being hated, being hurt, being slaughtered, no one reached out to them. What pushed them to make the decision was probably not that word, that phrase, not the hatred from the person, that group, but the ignorance and indifference from the world that made them lose their incentive to live. Every morning when they wake up, the first thing is not how to say I love you to their cared ones, but how to protect themselves from all the haters. I've known students who stopped going to school because they're afraid to be bullied. But what about those that are being cyberbullied? Is there any way for them to go? Brandy Villa, an 18-year-old who's receiving abusive text messages for months from bullies, using an untraceable smartphone application, shot herself in the chest at home in front of all her families. Mallory Rose Grossman, a 12-year-old girl, hanged herself in the bedroom closet after at least 9 months of cyberbullying in 2017. And I did not know any of that until recently. People always say life is fragile. It is so much easier to destroy a life than to save one. But is it? Research has shown that bullying stops within 10 seconds, 57 57% of the time when bystanders turn to arbstanders. It can be applied to cyberbullying as well. It might just be 1 second, one step, and you can save one life. It might just be one moment. Rethink what you are typing online. Rethink before you post anything. It could save one life. Cyberbullying was not even a familiar word 30 years ago. According to research study, in comparison to verbal bullying, adolescents who reported cyberbullying were 11.5 more likely to have suicide ideation, compared to an 80.4% more likely when enduring verbal bullying. With cyberbullying, all the hatred and hostility are being immortalized. The harms are inescapable. Approximately 1 in 20 adolescents experience a suicide attempt in a single year. But the adolescents, the teens who are the major population suffering from this issue, are unaware of this issue. While technology is advancing at unprecedented speed, the social perceptions seem to lag behind. The public view still stay in the age where bullying is the major and the only concerns that parents should worry about. But no, with the advancing technology, people have consistently come up with new ways to hurt each other.
That's 5.
Yeah.
That's 5. That's okay.
Read your end really fast.
Okay, so my end.
Your last paragraph.
It's kind of long.
That's okay. Read the last paragraph really fast.
Most of the websites about cyberbullying have advocated parents and teachers to care for their kids, their students more. But more importantly, it's for the teens to take action. Shouldn't we take part in the fighting too? That's what brought me here today. I want to shout out to the parents, the adults, the people in power. We're not the ones to be protected anymore. I know I'm probably always a child in my mom's eyes, as I really love her, but I want to prove myself to my peers, to my mom, to the teacher, to society, that I can be an upstander and fight against social injustice, against the social issues, against the harms and hatred. We should not be those to be protected. We have the ability, dedication, and the most potential to carry out action to protect ourselves and create a world with less hostility and more warmth for the youngers. Because we are the next generation.
Okay, good. Good job.
Nice.
So quickly, 2 things that I want you to remember. After you talk about the 3 girls, right, you say this person committed suicide, the 12-year-old hung herself, right? You went through those 3 things, cut everything else after that. Get rid of it, delete it, and go straight to your end. Okay? Because you don't, all that other stuff took away. It didn't add to your talk. Up until that point, it was like amazing.
Yeah, I wasn't satisfied with that.
Yeah, it was amazing. So do your whole talk about the 3 people, and then go straight to the end. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, at the end, don't make it about you. So don't make it I, but make it about we. Okay, so we need to make a shift. I know that we are, in the eyes of our parents, we're just the children, but we have to da-da-da-da-da. Because now the people that are watching your talk, it's like their call to action. It's like, I gotta do something, right? Where if you make it just I, then I can't relate. Then I'm like, oh, I don't have to do anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But other than that, your voice is great, like your conviction is really good, but those 2 things will be a game changer for you.
Yeah, a little more volume. Your emotion is great. I mean, when you read that last paragraph, I was like, I believed you, right? I believed you. And I know you were circling back on your story about your mom and how you were raised. So, like Netta said, I mean, starting with the I just quickly there, but then going back to we all need to, right? I know you were trying to circle back, which was a good thing. You want to circle back, but just shift it to we as you get through part of that. But yeah, I thought it was great.
Good job. Good
Yeah,
job.
good
Okay,
job.
Over here.
All right, Shelly. Awesome. All right, who's next? Okay.
Who's going?
Who's going? Come on, stand up. You have to go.
Why don't you go since you just have your paragraph?
Sure.
Okay.
What's your name?
William.
William?
Mhm.
Let's welcome William. All right.
Excuse my short speech. Okay. To cheat or not to cheat? This is a question. From a survey, 70% of students in our school are cheating or have cheated before. to be honest with you, I cheated before. Before I realized that cheating is not all about affecting fairness, fairness, but hurting myself. That's all.
Okay, good. Couple
Great
questions.
topic.
What you're talking to be about? Like what you're talking about cheating? Why?
I'm talking about cheating because it's very common,
Okay.
both like around the world.
Okay.
And I'm talking about like why we cheat and do we really need to cheat?
Okay. But like what? But what? Why though? Like why can't I cheat?
Because cheat is not about fairness or it's like actually affecting yourself.
Okay, so I want you to remember that when you do your talk. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, same thing.
Good job. Ready to go? I believe. I believe.
What's your name?
Chris.
Chris?
Nice to talk, Chris.
All right.
Like, I can still change this, right?
Yeah, that's what today's for. We're gonna give you feedback.
Okay.
But talk nice and tall, shoulders back, Superman style.
Imagine that you live in a world where all people do not even have the ability to walk. Where all people do not even have the ability to get out of bed on their own. Where all people suffer from severe, life-threatening diseases like heart attacks, diabetes, and so many other conditions. Basically, imagine a scene from WALL-E. There is such a simple way to help prevent these conditions, and all you have to do is be physically active. A manageable place is to start with our adolescents. An easy solution would be to incorporate physical education for all high schoolers. For many parents, one of their worst nightmares is having a sick and unhealthy child. Requiring PE to be incorporated into all high schoolers' schedules would ensure that students are at a bare minimum receiving physical activity. This is absolutely essential because according to Concordia University, more than 80% of adolescents do not receive enough physical activity per day. Physical activity is scientifically proven to improve the health and fitness of people who are active at least 30 minutes a day. Cardiovascular disease is one of the leading causes of death in the US. The chance of dying due to this leading cause of death can be reduced by an entire 24% with daily physical activity. Also, being active boosts your immune system, allowing your body to better defend itself when there's an infection. A strong immune system would ensure that you would get sick less and make you a more healthy person. For those out there who don't really know what an immune system does, here's how it works. Your immune system creates, stores, and distributes the white blood cells that help fight bacteria and viruses that enter your body, especially during cold and flu season. Just to stress how important your immune system is to you, without it, you would just constantly get sick over and over again, and your life would just revolve around sickness. If this rings a bell to you, a top priority of many high schoolers is to have good grades because these grades will be seen by colleges that could very well determine your future. Being physically active has been scientifically proven to help students focus more. In a large-scale study conducted by the Journal of Pediatrics, information on over 12,000 students was compiled together. Researchers received information on body mass index, each child's time mile, and English and math grades from standardized state testing. After studying the data, the researchers concluded that most children with a higher level of fitness received higher scores on standardized testing. There are countless studies like this one that show the benefits of physical education. Being focused will raise test rates and performance in school. You may say that on the contrary, if physical education wasn't required, students would have more time for academics. They could take more APs and more honors classes to raise their GPAs. But what is the point of good grades if you're sick, unhealthy, overweight, and have countless other detrimental health issues? There's no point in getting to Harvard if you're so overweight that you can't get your foot out the door to go to orientation day. According to livestrong.com, never exercising can lead to irregular sleep patterns. Without a proper amount of sleep, students will suffer from impediments, including an inability to concentrate, poor grades, drowsy driving incidents, anxiety, depression, thoughts of suicide, and even suicide attempts. Many of these dilemmas, like drowsy driving and suicide, are right around the corner of death. After hearing all of these tragedies that could occur if you don't exercise, like obesity, cardiovascular disease, insomnia, and so many others, it is clear that physical education must be incorporated into all high school schedules. Not only does it prevent diseases, but it also has countless benefits, like being more healthy, fit, having a stronger immune system, and better sleep. With all of these benefits, it is impossible to ignore what needs to be done. So for you, your child, or for the sake of all the members on our planet, physical education must be included in all high school schedules.
Okay, good. Really good. Now, question for you. Is physical education not required today?
Well, it's like for my high school, it's required for like 2 years.
Okay.
I'm saying it should always be required.
Okay, so you gotta make that clear. Okay, so I want you to make clear that today, physical education programs are only required for 1 to 2 years. Okay, so make that statement so that we understand. Because somebody could say, well, I do PE, but I want you to make it really clear that it's not like a requirement every year, and that's what you're saying, like, we should continue this process, right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I want you to remember this when you go back and look at your talk, I don't want you to talk about only physical education. I want you to talk about health and fitness. Okay? And the reason why is because the truth is you can be as fit as possible, and you could be like physically a machine. But if you're not healthy up here, you can still have cancer, you can still suffer from high blood pressure and die from a heart attack, and you can still have anxiety and commit suicide. And so it's really, and actually most heart attacks come from high blood pressure, which is from stress. Okay? And so that's why I want you to bring that in, that we need to incorporate physical education and mental health, right? So we're talking about health, like we're talking about both parts of health. Not only physical fitness, but we're also talking about like emotional and mental health, like how do you manage your stress, right? How do you deal with your anxiety, because it all affects the health and the body. Does that make sense? And the reason why I'm telling you that is because somebody can listen to your talk and they'll be able to show you like a lot of the disease is not because of somebody's weight. It's because of the mental health and the food that they take too. It's like, it's a combination of those things. And so I want you to have more, but like there needs to be a little bit more of this emotional health component with yours so that it's more credible. Like it's like, yes, this is true.
So like, should I just like not say the PE part and just be like, just be active? Like.
No, I would say exactly what you're saying. Instead of saying physical education, saying like health education, which includes physical and mental health. You see what I'm saying? Like you're saying that we need health education, basically. And health education is comprised of this physical component, right, which is PE, and it's also comprised of like the mental component. We need mental exercise as well. That's what I'm saying. So if you can pull both of those in, then your talk will go to a next level, because then as a school or as an audience, we're like, yes, we need both of them right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and they affect each other. And also, I don't know if you said this, but talking about, it's like building the habits when you're young, right? If you are in the habit of exercising and having a consistent program like PE, you're more apt, and maybe there's some stats out there, you're more apt to continue that into adulthood, right? So making sure that you tie into not just, having PE in schools for the 4 years that you're in school, but this sets the tone for the rest of your life, right? This sets habits in place that, we know physical activity, like Netta said, has a downstream effect of everything, of stress, of sleep, of all of the things that make us healthy both physically and mentally. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So definitely putting in something about starting the habits when you're young will have, massive effect as you.
So I would say health education. And then make a point and say, today in our school system, we have 2 years of physical education. I'm here today to tell you that we not only need 4 years of physical education, but we also need mental education, right? Like mental health education. And then go into your arguments about how physical education and like your mindset, it affects your health. And as you get older, like Leanne said, if you don't learn how to manage it and build those behaviors when you're young, by the time you're 30 and 35 and 40, like that's why we have an epidemic with cancer and heart disease today, is because of both of them. We're not working on both of them, right? How many of you guys in this room would say that for the most part you're physically fit? Like you work out, you love to exercise, that kind of thing, like you're not overweight, like most of you, right? How many of you guys though still feel anxiety and still feel stress, and there's moments when you get sick because there's just too much going on in your mind? Most of us. And that's my point, is that I want you to tackle both of them. Because you have a really, really good talk. If you pull that component with it and basically say that it's like both of them are good, you'll score. Okay? Good job.
Good job.
Alrighty, who's next? We only have like 6 of you, so someone gotta go do it. Yeah.
I don't have anything because I wasn't here last week.
Good, I believe you.
I don't have anything because I wasn't here last week.
Okay.
But they still need to come up.
Yeah, I want, if you plan on talking next week, I want you to just say whatever you have, even if it's 3 sentences.
Alright, so I guess the point of my speech is to I guess if you have an opportunity in life, you should always take it and don't waste opportunities, because I have a friend who goes to this really fancy school, and I feel like he's throwing it all away by doing stupid things, not getting into trouble necessarily, but he's just not making the most of the opportunity that he has, and he might leave the school to go to LA, which is not going to be beneficial for him. And so it makes me really sad to see someone who has an opportunity in front of him, who has a bright future ahead of him, who's throwing it away because of doing stupid things. And I just feel really bad for him because he's someone that I really like, I really love, and I don't want him to go to some crappy school in LA. But however, I do have another friend who does go to a terrible school where a lot of the kids are very poor and don't have a bright future ahead of them and don't have a big opportunity. But she made the most of what she could do. For example, there was this college thing, college course to help with SAT classes that was offered at her school, and she was able to talk to different colleges. She was able to improve her SAT scores, and because the majority of the kids in her school are motivated, half of the school didn't even show up, or I'd say like 75% of the school didn't even show up, and she was one of the few people that actually showed up, who actually cared about her future and where she wanted to go. And she was able to EA into where is it, Cornell, which is, and she didn't even know Cornell was like some fancy big school, but because she was able to take the opportunity that was presented to her, she was able to make the most of it and change her life completely, compared to my friend who already has an opportunity and is throwing it away. So yeah, that's all I have.
Okay, good. I think that's a really good topic. So from what I hear you saying is that your topic is going to be like seizing opportunities or something of that
kind of
sort.
broad, but
Okay? No, it's not broad. It's good. Seizing opportunities that are right in front of you or something like that,
Yeah.
right? And so then what you need to talk about, like in the meat of your talk, is like perspective, right? Like how you see your opportunities, and motivation, like internal motivation and drive, and also delayed gratification. Meaning that every opportunity is an opportunity. It might not make you $1 million this second, but in 2 years from now, it's gonna pay off and be a large opportunity.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So find like these 3 things that are gonna play into your opportunity. Okay?
Alright, for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
I believe in you. You got it. Your turn. Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
What's
Full
your name?
disclosure, I don't have it memorized, so my eye contact might be a little like.
That's okay.
There.
Full disclosure, how many people had it memorized when they went up? You got it.
Ooh, I'm nervous now.
Check it out.
That's okay. It's okay to be nervous. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Nikki Lynn, and I'm here to talk to you about politics. Now, before you fall asleep, let me just say politics aren't completely boring. And I didn't start becoming interested in the news until pretty recently. It's important for younger generations to begin learning and understand politics better. They need to know what's happening in the world. After all, they live in it. It's important for teenagers to learn more about politics so they'll know whether or not, who they're voting for and why they're voting for whoever it is they're voting for. Most children or teenagers end up voting for the candidate that their parents vote for, regardless of whether or not that person is the right choice. It's also important to take into consideration that social media platforms such as Instagram and Twitter play a big role in how politics influence teens. Most teenagers find out what's happening in the world only because of social media. And without social media platforms, teenagers wouldn't know about climate change, who is running for president, even things happening in their own states. Most teenagers, heck, even adults in their early 20s, probably don't watch the news. Not consistently, at least. But social media can also be beneficial to teenagers and young adults. Subjects like LGBT, abortion, transgender, gender equality rates, and even racial discrimination are only as heavily impacted as they are in people because of social media. It spreads awareness to people who probably don't even know that some of these issues are actually issues. No matter what century or decade it is, there will always be another subject for another group to discriminate against. Social media can be a great way to spread awareness, but it has to be done in the right way. Imagine this. You're a 13-year-old on Instagram, and this is completely hypothetical. My personal opinion will in no way impact this. Imagine scrolling through and suddenly you see, in great big letters, laziness is a trait in blacks. Quoted by Donald Trump. Among other horrendous things he said, you'd find it offensive, right? After all, what year is this? You'd go into the comment section and begin scrolling. You'd see hundreds of comments just trash-talking him, and some might even be agreeing with him. But you yourself would be persuaded. You'd take a side. What many people don't realize is after all of our president's offensive comments, as of right now, African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, and women's unemployment rates have reached the lowest ever, which is great. Almost 4 million jobs have been created since his election. With the good, there will always be bad, especially when it comes to politics. Not everyone will agree with each other, and that's okay. In order for younger generations to succeed in life, they have to look past the propaganda and rumors of social media, and they have to be able to tell the difference between whether it's true or not. Thank you.
Good. Good topic, really good topic. Okay, so I want you to think about this a little bit because I'm going to play devil's advocate. Do you know what that means? Like I'm going to play the other side of it, okay? What I heard you say in your talk wasn't so much about learning about politics, but it was about social and global awareness through social media. Okay, and so that's what I want you to ask yourself. It's like, is your talk focused on how social media can help make youth aware and like these global and political challenges? Or is your talk strictly about politics and how youth should be engaged in politics?
You know what? While I was writing my presentation, I thought about changing it.
Good. Okay.
Because I was going to change the topic to how politics are reflected in social media and how it kind of reflects people.
Okay, so just from hearing your talk, I think your talk is going to serve you better if you talk about like how we can use social media as a positive force.
And I feel like I can just add on a lot more to it, I guess.
Well, most of your talk is about that, so you really don't have much to do. But I think I would like to see where you say like, here's how social media can be a positive force for youth in global and political awareness. Because like half of you guys wouldn't know who like Greta Thunberg is in Sweden, right? If you didn't have social media and you didn't see what she was doing for global climate movement, right? And that's a young adult that's inspiring young adults in the US because of social media, you could see her, right? So I would actually focus on how social media can positively impact youth in political and global awareness. And then talk about like, we need to be informed. We have to know what's happening in politics. We have to know what's happening around the globe. We don't even know what's happening in our own backyard. But social media can show us like what's going on around the world and provide like knowledge and perspective that helps us. Does that make sense to you? Because like you make a really good point with LGBTQ community and diversity and inclusion and all of these things. You're learning them more through social media because that is the youth's #1 source of information.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, I think a lot of different ways it could go, but I like what that is saying in terms of, because when you started with politics, I thought, I don't know if I'm feeling that, but the social awareness and I guess too you could go into, maybe you did about let's face it, we can either contribute on social media or help in the contamination, right? When you talk about scrolling
Love
through
that.
comments and, it's either contributing or contaminating. Are you gonna go along the negative stream and add to that? Or are you gonna look at the, on the positive side of what's happening and what someone like a Donald Trump that a lot of people deplore, but what are some of the good things too, right? Because it's all perspective.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if this is a good, I mean, I think I just asked me now. I almost added this. I don't think it would be great, but I was going to say that, okay, just first, because he's not like the topic of my presentation, so I didn't add it, but he's a businessman. So that's kind of why he does what he does. But it also is beneficial because of all the jobs being created and things like that.
So I want to remind you, so don't put that in your talk, and let me tell you why. Because I want to remind you guys that remember that when you do a TEDx talk, we're not allowed to bring political affiliation and opinion in. Remember that that's one of the rules that we had in that PowerPoint in that slide, that we want to refrain from like talking about any political figures and like having a bias one way or the other about them. Okay, so you actually need to remove that political.
But the one that I had was fine.
I have to hear it again. I'll look at it a little bit later.
you kind
okay?
of did the juxtaposition with,
Yeah.
here's all this like hate stuff about him, but then he's doing these positive things. Maybe you just frame it as some world leaders. Maybe instead of saying a name, you say, some world leaders you may believe are doing a terrible job, and maybe they're doing X, Y, Z, but some are doing
keep
this.
it neutral.
Yeah.
Don't put a name to it. Okay, that's the first thing. But the second thing is that I want you to make a point in the beginning of your talk that, let's be real, young adults, our main source of information is the cell phone and social media. Do you know what I'm saying? And so there can be more responsible social media integration for youth that gives us global and political awareness, because this is what we use. And so I think you have a really good point, because you're also bringing in the positives of social media. You're saying like it could be used for like a really good source, but we're just not using it yet.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And I like I like your energy. It's a little sassy.
You're a great talker.
Yeah, it's a little sassy, and I like that. The way you say, like, come on, like, really, people. You kind of have that, and I like that. That serves you in this topic. And also, like Netta said, and you can say, like, let's face it, this is our source, right? Like, do the physical action of that. Because, it gets people engaged and laughing.
And it's not going to change. Like, the source of social media is not going anywhere. It's only ramping up. So, like, I think that you need to say, like, this is the next generation of education.
Right.
It is.
Right. And you get to choose
How to use
what
it.
you put in your consciousness, right? How you use it, what you follow. You get to choose.
Does that
It's
make
good,
sense?
yeah.
Did we give you too much information?
No, I actually of course did.
Okay, good.
Your energy's great.
You're
yeah.
processing. Good.
Yeah.
I love that.
Listen back.
Yeah, sit over here just so we know. We got 6 left. All right, who's next? Where to go? Yeah, go for it.
What's your name?
Hi, my name's Ethan.
Ethan.
Great speaker.
Welcome,
All right,
Ethan.
tell. Good
Let's
voice.
go, Ethan.
And my speech is prohibiting the use of smoking cigarettes.
Cool.
Gradually over the years, the uncontrollable addiction of smoking cigarettes that has become a pandemic with more than 480,000 deaths on its hands per year has started to rise. The trend of smoking cigarettes has blown out of proportion, causing detrimental effects to society. Due to the fact that smoking cigarettes contribute to many deleterious risks, deteriorates the condition of the environment, and affects the well-being of others, smoking cigarettes should be completely prohibited.
Good, keep going.
Smoking cigarettes often lead to adverse effects. According to research by the BMJ Journal, just smoking one cigarette makes someone 74% more likely to develop coronary heart disease, 13% more likely to have a stroke, and even damages the structure and functions of your blood cells. Smoking also contributes to 90% of all lung cancer deaths. Moreover, there is no safe option to smoking, as even the tiniest puffs scatter thousands of dangerous chemicals across the body. The safest option would be banning smoking completely, which would not only save millions of lives, but save our environment as well. Although smoking causes alarming effects to the body, what is more tragic is what it does to the environment. In the rainforest, tobacco planting causes deforestation, while the entire process of manufacturing cigarettes releases chemicals that are not only toxic, but also contaminates the soil, making it unusual for farming and many other things necessary for our lives. Forests also transform into wildfires from burned cigarettes and discarded lighters. Cities are scattered with cigarette butts, which drift often into the ocean or waterways due to rainstorms affecting aquatic animals. Finally, for all of the pet owners, imagine your pet stumbles across a small item on the street, and you realize they consumed a cigarette remainder. With regards to your pet's health, hopefully the odds are in your favor. Bystanders that cross paths with smokers deal with the most unfortunate issues. Smokers trap innocent citizens in poisonous shackles, leaving them to rot with no rescue. Even a bystander walks by a smoker, they're prone to the same diseases and health risks for smokers that as they may inhale the chemicals within proximity. Furthermore, according to the American Heart Association, furniture can retain chemicals from cigarettes, which can lead to fatal diseases and illnesses which build up over time. However, smoking cigarettes can benefit our nation's economy, jobs, and exports. As a major industry, tobacco reigns superior, making smoking difficult to prohibit. But it is necessary. However difficult it may seem to enforce the non-smoking rule in restaurants and public places in order to shield the health of other bystanders. Now, I'm sure you may be thinking, why would we worry about this? After all, we're only teenagers and don't suffer from smoking addictions. The truth is, we will be the adults of tomorrow. It is our duty to make the right decisions. It is our duty to tread the path of the greater good that others before did not. It is our duty to eradicate the substantial problem of smoking cigarettes that plagues our world. With smoking raising health risks, deteriorating the environment, and affecting other bystanders, it is definitely not a matter that should be overlooked. In essence, we must take immediate action to prohibit smoking cigarettes before it's too late.
Great, good job. You made all that up in that one, sir?
So this is actually my 9th grade essay for my persuasive essay speech class.
Okay, good. Good. It's a good talk. It's a really good talk, okay? I'm going to give you some feedback. First, I like that you're confident. That's really strong. You have a great voice, okay? The one thing that I want to talk with you about in your talk, because now you can like change a little bit, is I want you to talk about all cigarettes.
Right.
Not just these cigarettes, but e-cigarettes as well, okay? And remember how Leanne said earlier about chunking it into 3?
Yes.
Okay, so what I heard you say is that there's 3 things that cigarettes do. So I want you to remember this. It makes a personal impact, so that's the cigarette to the self, right? Like health-wise, okay? It makes a community impact, meaning that people that are smoking, they're affecting everybody around them. Because like when we walk, we have to smell it. If we move into an apartment and there was a smoker there, it's still in the carpet, right? So remember these 3 things. It impacts the self, it impacts the community, okay? And then there's also an environmental impact. Because the plantations that produce this tobacco, they cause deforestation, and they cause this, this, and this. Okay, and so that's what I really want you to make clear. Like, here's why we need to eliminate cigarettes, including e-cigarettes. There's 3 things that it does to this planet, starting with the self, community, and now going to environmental impact. Make sense?
Got it.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Almost done. Hold on.
I like that. Yeah. I
One
like
more
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and then after that, then go into. So you make a comment about how tobacco is like a huge money maker for the US, right? So I want you to play devil advocate with yourself. So instead of saying, you know, tobacco gives us a lot of money, I want you to say something like, now I know what you're thinking. I understand that tobacco is a huge money maker for the United States of America. So like play that side. It's like, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, tobacco is a huge money maker. And then do your counter argument of, but at the expense of what? All the human lives, all the deforestation of our communities, which is more expensive. Then like play your argument back. Does that make sense?
Raising healthcare
Good.
costs.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So, yeah.
And then at the end, then say, as a young adult and as youth, we have to start with us because we are the next generation of adults. But then like tie it all in.
Got it.
Good job.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And you could also talk about, you know, the United States, right? I mean, there's a lot of non-smoking cities. I mean, more than ever in our country, we are putting a lot of regulations in around it. That's why when you started, I'm like, is this really a problem? I thought it was going down. But other countries, maybe there's stats that you can say, like the United States, tobacco use in the form of cigarettes might be on the decline, but there's vaping, e-cigarettes, other things,
Yeah, that's why
right?
vaping and e-cig,
Yeah.
that's why it's important to bring in all types of cigarettes.
Right, bringing in all types of, you know, yeah. And then, but you might want to bring up other countries, but in the UK or, you know, France or whatever, you know, if there's other stats saying that still a huge amount of population is smoking. So I don't know, maybe there's something there.
Yeah, I would just say to incorporate all the cigarettes,
Yeah,
because all of them make an impact, whether it's the global or, yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
Good job.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, go for it.
You're so beautiful. Happy upper middle class, two parents home. She was in her junior year at Emory University where she met a professional and well-spoken modeling agent. He had a business card, a portfolio of contacts with recognizable models, a pregnant fiancée on his arm, and connection through the city to promoter, music video director, casting agent, producer, celebrities, athletes, and more. He groomed Rachel with high quality, all expense paid photo shoots, professional com card, and legitimate modeling work in various music video and magazines. He convinced her to start exotic dancing to raise revenue to fund her modeling career, flights to New York auditions, and etc. Then to receive a payment from a video, he convinced her to fill in the W-4 form, which includes her parents' information, her social security number, and her school information. And this is when the things went south. He began forcing her to have sex with clients from the strip club to promote her career. Video sets that anyone else would pay. He threatened to kill her parents, to send embarrassing tape to her school dean if she ever tries to run away. He became physically abusive and mentally abusive, and yet all the while maintaining that he was an agent. Thankfully, another of the Pink's victims reported him to the police. 2 years later, he was sent to jail and Rachel was very lucky to be rescued. But unfortunately for many other victims, they were never able to get out of the industry until their 50s or 60s because of this small mistake at the very beginning. When they see this friend of friend, family relative, sister's tutor, or anyone that they are familiar with, they don't see the chance of them being a trafficker. But this is exactly what trafficker does. They're able to develop this connection with you because you think you know them and you're familiar with them. But you never get to know that they might have been following what you do throughout the day, where you stop at for coffee, which friend you go see, and where you go to school. Now, let me ask you a question. What's your name?
Sure.
What's your mom's name?
Joy.
What's her last name?
Chu.
Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna call your parent or anything. But what I just shared with you, how Rachel Thomas was threatened because she gave out her parents' information, because she submitted her social security number. You still told me your mom's name. I did not say what we needed for it.
That's 5.
Okay.
Okay, that's a little over 5 minutes, so.
Because I'm someone who's competing with you in the speech training class for 2 weeks. Because you actually know me. You think you can trust me and give me your parents' information. But this is exactly what trafficker does. Well, I'm not a trafficker, but but doing this, I just want to show you how disarmed and cautious we all are. My nonprofit has been fighting human trafficking by bringing workshops to local high schools. We hosted one in Arcadia High where we received more than 100 attendees, and this past week we also hosted Influential Prep and received more than 35 attendees. The reason why we care so much about the number of people that attended the workshop was that we think the most important way to eradicate human trafficking is by raising awareness, addressing the misconception, and educating our peers. And we do this not in the most efficient way because it always takes time to prepare for the workshop. the materials, even menu and everything. But you all have the power and responsibility to share what you learned today with your family member, your friends, your siblings, your teacher, and everyone. You're taking the first step to combat human trafficking. That is to educate yourself and everyone around you.
Good. Good. All right. I'm gonna throw stuff at you really fast, okay? First thing is you need to cut about 1.5 minutes of the middle section. Just like delete it and get rid of it. Okay? Cut from one section to another.
There's too much detail in that story.
It's too much for the brain to like process. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing, in the beginning, you need to play even more on the word "you beautiful." So here's an example. Stand up there and say, "You're beautiful. You're gorgeous. I love your hair." How does that make you feel? Great. Now imagine someone saying that to a young woman to manipulate them into human trafficking. Doesn't feel that good anymore, does it? See what I did there? Okay, that's how I want you to start. Okay?
I'd slow it down even more.
Yeah, that's what makes it effective.
Slow
is
those
you're
three
like,
phrases down. Yeah.
like, we think that these terms are so amazing, and we're like, ooh, I feel so good. And then you're like, and reverse. Now imagine that somebody says that to a young woman or a young guy to take them into human trafficking. Now how do you feel? And because of our self-esteem and because they prey on individuals that don't have self-worth, these words can quickly become violent. You see what I mean? And that's what I need you to shift, okay? At the end, don't talk so much about your nonprofit organization, okay? Say that you have the nonprofit organization to create awareness and education, but don't go into like how many people come to the workshop, all of that stuff you can cut, okay? Say about the nonprofit and then say, here's what you can do today to make a difference. Educate yourself like you are right now, and continue to educate yourself and be an advocate for this problem.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Got it? Good. Anybody else?
Yeah.
All right, good job. All right, got a few more. Who's up? Let's go. You guys are doing so good.
And you can learn from each other, which is great. Yes, this is awesome.
Do you want this little podium? Yeah. Okay, let's move it to the middle for you.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
In recent years, the lines of gender have become less binary, and we have come to see gender as more fluid than this or that. We have tried to move away from thinking that men or women can only fit into one certain gender role. I go to an all-boys school that was founded in the 1860s, before any of this became an issue. To an outsider, this represents a relic from an older time. They may think that it emphasizes old ideas, or, as we hear a lot, that it's a jock school. Some may even question that it has anything to offer in 2020. Compared to other schools, many San Marino, Pasadena students may regard it less highly than other schools and question the quote-unquote gimmick of an all-boys school. What does it have to offer? Haven't we moved beyond all of this? Having been there for 1.5 years and having seen my brother grow there for 4, I can say that my assumptions were wrong. Traditionalists, opponents of this new gender issue, maintain that traditional masculinity should remain and has value that should be imparted on newer generations. The question now becomes, how do we impart masculinity without also continuing the cycle of backwards masculinity?
Good question.
My school, Loyola High School of Los Angeles, has an interesting approach. Any high school is tasked with turning their students into functional adults. Loyola does so first through holistic education. One should be well physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. This makes anyone into a healthy adult. But what does it take to turn someone into a modern man? To me, being a man involves always trying to do or striving to do what's right. Loyola's motto is that it will turn you into a man for and with others. This statement has evolved over time. When my brother joined, this motto was just men with others. But it's changed so that we emphasize being a man who helps others at all times as well. And being a man for and with others is what a good leader, a good person, and a good man should strive to be. The motto emphasizes 3 things prominently: brotherhood, service, and leadership. Being a man and a leader shouldn't just be about being for others, but also with them. I run cross country, and when I'm running with my team, them encouraging me isn't the only thing that helps me to keep going, but it's also knowing that they're suffering along with me. And to me, the environment of Loyal also screams brotherhood. I get along with almost every Loyal guy purely because of the fact that we're all loyal boys. And since I know that Loyal's brotherhood is so strong, I know that I have people to count on if I'm facing issues in my life. As I mentioned, Loyal tries to cultivate leadership. From our motto to our graduate and graduation values, Loyal emphasizes leadership in almost everything that we do. Emphasizing leadership in our society is the most important thing that we can do. We try to make sure that we have strong, kind leaders in our schools so that when we grow up, we can get things done. To me, all of the aforementioned points are very important traits in making men strong, kind, helpful, and loving. It's important to remember that while we have made great progress in understanding the limitations that were once perceived are not, backtracking. It's important to remember that while we have made great progress in understanding the limitations that were once perceived are not as concrete as believed. But we must remember that throwing out the baby with the bathwater, not imparting masculinity at all does not serve to produce men of today and leaders of tomorrow. Rather than forgetting those values for all who identify as boys, let's remember that there are many options, many places that can turn these boys into men who are, as my school says, grad values. We can make men who are open to growth, committed to justice, loving, developed as a leader, and intellectually distinguished.
Good job. Amazing topic. Like, this topic is so cool, right? It's a really needed topic. I would say that obviously once you get out of the laptop, memorize it in the next few days, because you need to start practicing like your stance and like how you look at people and how you command the room. Okay? But I love the topic. For me, it's everything that I said earlier. To like kneel is like up and down with the sound, and then like really, because somebody's gonna watch this talk and be like, wow, how old are you?
14.
Yeah, but wow, this 14-year-old is talking about manhood in 2020, you know, like that's really cool. So I would just say like your posture and then having highs and lows in your talk.
Yeah, and if any sentences as you're reading feel clumsy, shift it, because how we write is different than how we speak, right? So anything that feels too complicated or clumsy for any of you, you know, that's just hard to memorize, just shift it a little bit. Just make it more real, like you're talking to your best friend at the kitchen table, right? Because that's how you want this talk to just flow and feel, right? Not these complicated sentences, which might be a little tricky to say.
It's really good. Good
Yeah,
job.
really good.
All right, here we go. You're up.
All right.
Go, Sharon.
It's okay.
You are ugly. You're ugly. Are you shocked? Confused? Perhaps hurt? I'm curious, what was your initial reaction to having your appearance judged? I'm sure the feeling isn't pleasant. I know I certainly don't enjoy people criticizing my looks. The first time I became conscious of how I present myself was in middle school. I didn't really pay attention to this sort of thing until then. My friends and family never touched on this topic either, other than my grandparents repeatedly proclaiming my adorable face. As my grandma puts it, my features indicate that I will have a successful and fulfilling future. I started to realize that I'm not the pretty girl my loved ones say I am. Once I entered 7th grade, I noticed a difference between myself and others. The eyes I once adored so much seemed so small and lacking. My nose, sitting smack in the center, suddenly seemed like it was too big and disproportionate to the rest of my face. Which, by the way, isn't even remotely symmetrical as I would have liked. That's when I decided I was ugly. Whenever I criticized my own appearance, my friends would rush to object and flatter me with compliments and phrases like, "You're beautiful." But deep down, we all know they are doing it out of comfort and obligation to boost my self-confidence. And through their white lies, I can hear a hint of hesitation when they describe how cute my face is. There has been multiple instances where I've been the subject of the word ugly. There's a standard of beauty set up by society, and not everyone can achieve it.
Take this issue seriously because it hasn't happened to them. Or something like that, and then just go straight into the end. But all of this stuff you need to cut, okay?
Yeah.
Same thing in the beginning that I told you last week. Paint the picture. February 24th, da-da-da-da-da-da. One man walked in, 17 people killed, 17 people injured, all at the expense of one gun. You see what I mean? Like, you have to make us think like, whoa. Don't rush through it, especially on a topic like this.
Yes.
Okay? Good.
Thank you.
All right, last one. You guys are doing good though. Great.
Mine is kind of long.
I'll stop you if I need to. Okay.
I was a happy kid. I was living my dreams with 2 happy parents. I owned a dog named Toby, and I had a good amount of friends, and I was a fat, chubby kid who got spoiled for the next 12 years of his life. A few years ago, I tore my Achilles, and I was in a cast for 6 months. I had to miss out on all the sports opportunities I was offered, and all I did was ignore the reality that I was in. I continued to do this until my parents divorced in the beginning of middle school. I failed to visit my dog, I failed to see my mother for months, and I failed to convince my father to not move to a different middle school where I knew nobody. I was alone, I was fat, and I was a nobody. How can someone rise from something so traumatic to become a completely different person, especially being affected in such a delicate, malleable time in their life? Tim Libert, who did a previous TED Talk about failures, states, for decades we've been narrowing the space in which we can lose social stigma. We live in a climate where we know the price of everything but know the value of nothing. The trauma that we experience in failure stimulates in our brains a pain that we never want to remember. Or in some other cases, it lights the fire of ambition for strive to success. For a trauma's perspective, it enables fear, and fear is a strong motivator. It influences our actions to avoid repeating the same mistake. Many of us fear that losing will become a more critical trait, not just as a way to show and form character, but as a character in our times. As a young generation, it is critical that we abolish the fear that resides in ourselves to develop the courage that creates endless success. How many people know Steve Jobs' life story? Raise your hand. Oh, great, 2 people. Okay, so he was raised by adopted parents, and he was approaching the end of high school. When he discovered his biological parents, he found out that he was destined for failure. The reason they put him up for adoption was to gain money, because they were not able to go to college. Both were inept of education and therefore forced to be put in this dreadful position. Knowing this, he strived for college and was able to attend. But unfortunately, he was broke. He slept on the floor of his friend's dorm room. He sold every bottle he could find just for food money. And he would walk 7 miles across town just to receive a free meal from the Korean Shrine Temple. Over time, he was aware of the situation, and then he outgrew that fear of failure. The problems with success are the symptoms that it causes. First, you are overwhelmed with the pride. Then you become oblivious to the faults, in which you will fall harder and harder than before. My English teacher told me failure is necessary. It's hard to improve something unless you've been shown how to fail. No matter how minor or major, you'll always learn from something. What failure does is enables you to view the axis of your weak points. You can't be too proud to notice something small. It just doesn't work. Steve Jobs was CEO of Apple, and he was the happiest he could have been. A few years later, he was voted out by his own board. He became broke once again, and he was depressed. You can see where I'm going with this, right? Because he failed again, he gained happiness once again. He found an amazing woman whom he would marry a few years later. He created other companies like Next and Pixar, and Next would soon be purchased by Apple, so he returned to the corporation he once built. The main key to success is persistency, to continue. Resiliency is a quality that any successful person should have. Being able to fail and rise back up is a talent.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there. I'm gonna stop you there. A little bit long, so we have to cut some stuff down. I like the topic, but I think that it needs to, it's a little bit all over the place. So we're gonna work on it. So the thing is, you guys, is that you don't wanna give too much information where we like don't remember any of the information. You know what I mean? And so that's when we have to chunk it, like Leanne was saying, like, here's my what, and then here's 1, 2, 3 reasons why we need to like fix it, and then here's 1, 2, 3 of how we can overcome it. Okay, so like for you, I think your topic should be like overcoming failure, or pushing through failure when we can't see the end, or like something like that.
Resilience too.
Yeah, and then diving into it. I have to like cut and slice a little bit, which I'll work with you. But I think that like your voice is good, your posture is good, your energy is good. It's just too much information that we need to cut down on the top.
Yeah, I wrote all of it like
Yeah.
right now.
Does that make sense? Anybody else?
Good. It's all great stuff. It's just, yeah. It's kind of how your personal story ties into your experience. It's okay to give examples of other people, but yeah, we just gotta streamline it.
Kathy.
That was really good storytelling in the beginning. It was very vivid about your dog.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like that's where I kind of remember the detail, and then it kind of goes into other people's stories. So I think that was a great start.
Okay, friends. Thank you. Remember, next week, okay, you have your last training session with us on Saturday. And then your competition is on Sunday. Hi everybody, I'm the founder and CEO of Rise Up For You, and I'm here with some of our staff members, Leanne and Kathy. We are all about helping humans build human skills. And today we get the honor of working on speaking skills with the TEDxSanMarino High School students. They're gonna be competing in 2 weeks to get on the TEDx stage. And we get the opportunity to train them, work with them, and deliver their message, because youth have a lot to say.
Absolutely.
Yay!